Hello and welcome to our weekly discussion on politics. I'm Bruce Andriach of the Buffalo News here with our politics reporter, Bob McCarthy. Bob, we're talking this week about something that is not going to be on a lot of people's minds for a while, but it's certainly on the minds of you and a lot of political figures in Erie County right now, and that is the county executive's race. You had a story this week looking at kind of laying out what's going to happen. I know it's the subject of your column this week. And just tell us a little bit about how the race stacks up right now as Mark Poloncarz considers whether to run for another term.
Sure, Bruce, and what it comes down to is that some decisions have to be made pretty soon because of the accelerated political calendar that we now deal with in New York State. Petitions for the office of county executive will be hitting the streets February 28th. So people have to start thinking about this, and Republican and Democratic leaders are beginning to weigh their options. Hey, the big question here is, what does Mark Poloncarz do? He has shown every indication that he's going to run, but he hasn't said so. And he acknowledges that there are lots of rumors out there that he may uh, join the Hochul administration in a major post there. It would take a major post, I think, to lure him out of the Rath building. But hey, stranger things have happened, and and the thing that he has to really consider is the unprecedented fourth term that he would be seeking. Dennis Gorski tried it back in 1999 and didn't make it, and so that's a major consideration for the county executive. Over on the Republican side, well, there's not a lot of people that are really clamoring for it, and but there does seem to be, and we'll talk about this in the column for Sunday, some interest in Mickey Kearns, a Democrat who has a kind of a interesting habit of running on the Republican line and winning. And so that's what really intrigues the Republicans. And absent any other real big person in the race, it might be interesting to see where they go with that. That's kind of a very quick synopsis. There are other names, of course, involved here.
Sure. And one of those names is a name well known in political circles in Western New York who may loom large over what happens with the Democrats, and that's Nate McMurray, who, as you wrote this week, might be weighing a primary against Poloncarz, right?
Sure, and he comes from the progressive wing of the party. He's got lots of contacts. Has maintained many of those contacts throughout his kind of quiet time. Even though he's not very quiet on Twitter, he's on there every day saying something about the world. So we know that Nate is still fully engaged. He's very serious, I think, about the possibility of entering this. If he did, he would have, I think, a number of various parts of the party, but would still be a very difficult challenge against a powerful incumbent with money, name recognition, and the backing of the Democratic organization.
Now, as you mentioned, Poloncarz will have had 12 years of baggage to deal with if he's running again in November. Certainly, the pandemic and his leadership during that time will be a
Mhm.
factor. But what we're all still talking about now is the blizzard and what happened during that time. And now we're up to, I think the number is 46 lives lost in the blizzard. Uh, my question is, how much will that event, which was historic, how much will that still be on the minds of voters in November, do you think?
Well, I think one thing we have to understand is that there's nothing very fair about what goes on in politics. And the fact remains that 46 people died in this event. And so we can figure out later on, I suppose, who was responsible for various things. But my hunch is that right now it will be an issue, fairly or unfairly.
Right.
And I think the county executive will, if he remains in the race, and we expect that he will, he will make a very strong case for how he handled this. But Nate McMurray is already saying 47 people died. The two top leaders, the mayor and the county executive, were bickering on national television. He's going to, I think he or anybody else may very well bring that into the discussion. And as I said, fairly or unfairly.
Right. In the interest of clarity, 46 deaths in Erie County, one death in Niagara County
Correct.
so far
Right.
as we continue to learn
Right.
more about that. Bob, one of the other things you wrote about in your Sunday column is something that could be a factor here, and that is the developing rift between traditional allies in government here, and that is between the Republicans and the conservatives. This is over the new appointment to the county legislature, and Chairman Larigo is not happy with Republicans right now. Do you envision a scenario where conservatives could possibly run their own candidate in November for county executive?
Could be, and that could really be a factor in this thing. Uh, Chairman Larigo of the Conservatives is livid over the fact that the Republicans did not choose his daughter-in-law, Lindsay Larigo, for a vacancy in the county legislature. Um, and so, therefore, there's a real breach there right now. And even though there are efforts to try to heal it, so far that hasn't happened. And so, what could we envision as a result of that? Maybe the conservatives, I don't know whether they will go this far or not, but or whether this breach can be healed in the meantime, but they could very well field their own candidate. And if that happens, you've got a split opposition against whoever the Democrat is in a overwhelmingly Democratic uh, county, and that would be a real problem. And it's kind of interesting for the conservatives because used to be in the old days, Bruce, that they might very well nominate a Democrat. There was all kinds of Democrats that they backed, but under the Mark Poloncarz and Jeremy Zellner era of the Democratic Party here, there is no relationship whatsoever and no hope of a relationship whatsoever between Democrats and conservatives. So where does the conservatives and Rigo go if they don't go with the Republican candidate? Well, they'd have to go with their own, and that could be a real problem. And so
Yeah,
the conservatives hold a little bit of leverage here.
great. Bob, last question, and we don't have your magic 8 ball this week to see the future, but if you were predicting who the two big names were going to be on the ballot in November, today in January, who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I'm always kind of afraid to be come across as a betting man. I'm afraid to go up to the window at Saratoga every summer and what's going to happen to me. But and I'll stay away from making a solid prediction. But I'll just say that uh, I think that the real interesting figure in all of this right now for the Republicans is Mickey Kearns. Will the Republicans go with a Democrat who has won countywide before as county clerk? Will that be acceptable to some of the real stalwart Republicans in the party, some of whom are saying right now, no way?
Hmm.
But Mickey Kearns has this habit of winning as a Democrat on the Republican line. Yeah, I think he would like to give this a shot, but we'll see what happens. Another question is, would he run in a Democratic primary? I don't know. And then on the Democratic side, this all so many factors, so many questions lie in Mark Poloncarz's bailiwick. He he certainly will win the endorsement of the party, but to have Nate McMurray take him on, maybe Mickey Kearns take him on, those are the questions we have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we'll get the answers as the year goes along, as we
We
always
will.
do.
Yeah, yeah.
Bob, Bob, thank you again for joining me this week.
You bet, Bruce.